responsibility yet again with respect to the missing and murdered Indigenous women, American Indians, and Alaska Natives. We look very forward to hearing your input that we will hear today on the call, and I just thank you for allowing me a couple minutes of your time to reaffirm the President's commitment, our commitment, and to thank each and every one of you for what you're doing every day to ease suffering, to increase opportunity, and to save lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kellyanne. This is Doug Holscher from the White House Intergovernmental Affairs team. Kellyanne hit on several things. I'm going to talk about some of the accomplishments in a little bit when we get to the slide deck. I was honored to join the President at the roundtable in Arizona with leaders of the Navajo Nation and also the Gila River Indian community, where once again the President highlighted this very important issue set. As I've shared with some of you before, I was very moved by the listening sessions that I participated in Alaska last summer, and really humbled to be a part of this effort and to help make progress on this, as Kellyanne put it, long forgotten, long overlooked issue set. So I'll get to a few more comments a little bit later. I'll turn it over to Jenny Lichter.
Thanks, Doug. Hi, everyone. This is Jenny Lichter, Deputy Director of the Domestic Policy Council here in the White House. On behalf of my team, DPC, I'm really grateful to all of you for joining us today. I'm grateful for the gift of your time at a time
Your
that I know
conference is being recorded.
And grateful to all of you for trusting us with your stories and your suggestions. We are totally committed, as Kellyanne and Doug have mentioned, to working with you to bring justice to your loved ones and to your communities, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you today about how we can work with you more effectively to do that. Thank you again.
And Peti Washte Madakiapi, Chante Washte Nape Chuzapi, Jeannie Hablana Machiapi, Isantiriate Matahan, Commissioner to Administration for Native Americans, Edwowashi Chamu. Good afternoon, my relatives. I greet you with a good heart. My name is Jeannie Hovland. I'm a proud member of the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe, and I'm Commissioner of the Administration for Native Americans, which is under the Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank all of those on the line from the White House and our federal agencies and on the task force for the work that has been committed to as we address this issue of the missing and murdered relatives of ours across our tribal nations and in our urban settings. And thank the tribal leadership and the family members that have been advocating for this to be addressed. Your voices have been heard. I'm grateful the President has established a task force and an executive order recognizing this important issue and making it a priority of his administration. I look forward to looking at this with our tribal leadership and communities through the lens of health and human services so that we can partner and find ways to prevent more of our relatives from going missing or being murdered, and also provide healing and intervention services for victims and families and communities as we recover from this. So look forward to hearing from you today, and thank you for letting me be part of this discussion. Thank you.
Difficulties, but we will get through them. Are you able to hear me? Okay. So as I was saying, we appreciate the interest of tribal leaders and others joining in this call, and that the information shared here today is very important. In honor of our government-to-government relationship, when it comes time for questions, we respectfully request that questions come from tribal leaders only for the first 30 minutes. The time remaining will then be open for comments from tribal community stakeholders and advocates. We ask that you keep your comments to approximately 3 minutes today, given the number of participants. The task force will schedule additional listening sessions, consultations, and you will have the ability to provide written testimony. Just a couple of routine housekeeping items. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand button located in the drop down at the top of your screen. It's either indicated by a hand icon or a figure with an arm raised. Your microphone will be unmuted when it is your turn. You can only speak if you've dialed in. When you are up to speak, please identify yourself with your name, spelling, title, and the tribe or organization that you represent. There is a 3-minute timer located at the bottom of the screen to ensure that we are able to speak to as many people as possible, and this has been a request that has been received by Indian Affairs to ensure that folks are timed and that we allow ample opportunity for those waiting in the queue to provide comments. So meaning absolutely no disrespect, but at the end of your 3 minutes, your line will be muted. And moving on to the next speaker. For everyone's awareness, everything that is said during this telephonic consultation will be recorded and become part of the final transcript. If you wish to provide a written comment during this presentation, please use the comment box that is available. We have individuals monitoring the comments that are coming in, and they will provide some additional information there. If you wish to submit more detailed written comments, you have that opportunity. You can submit them directly to Operation Lady Justice at usdoj.gov. In terms of moving along with this listening session, we're going to provide a brief overview of the task force, and each task force member will have the opportunity to introduce themselves, and we've heard from Commissioner Hovland, and then we will do a brief overview of the work that the task force has been performing and providing some probing questions for the audience to consider as we continue with this listening session. And so with that, I will start the PowerPoint presentation and turn it back over to Doug Holscher with the White House Intergovernmental Affairs.
All right, thank you very much, Assistant Secretary Sweeney. I think my line is unmuted now. I want to just add a little context to the overall efforts of the Trump administration. Obviously, we're all on this call today because we care about the issue of missing and murdered Native Americans. And President Trump was the first president to formally address the issue of missing and murdered Native Americans, first in a proclamation a little over a year ago. He signed a second proclamation earlier this month when he was in Arizona at the round table with Native American leaders. And as Kellyanne mentioned, signed an executive order that created this very important task force and the work that we're all a part of, including most importantly the folks who live in Indian country and have had personal or professional experience in this issue set. The President also has formed a presidential task force on protecting Native American children in the Indian Health Service. And so we look forward to having those recommendations rolled out in the very near future. The President also asked his administration to update long-sought Eagle Remains policy that had been sought by tribal leaders for many years. And so Denny Lichter, who you heard from earlier today, was a real leader on advancing that important work. The Trump administration has also worked to repatriate culturally important remains and artifacts from the Mesa Verde region and working with his counterparts around the world on that effort. And so that was something that the President announced in the White House last fall, and so we continue that important work. We also, as Kellyanne mentioned, the Trump administration is the first administration to ever host a federal tribal broadband summit. Also the first administration to host a White House conference on supporting Native American veterans. And I think most of the people on this call appreciate that Native Americans participated in our armed forces at a higher rate than the average population. So really a tribute to that culture of service, but also the commitment that the President has to our nation's veterans. And then finally, and most recently, the administration led by Tyler Fish and many federal leaders from the CDC and Jeannie Hubland and Admiral Wiaki and many others have been really laser focused on supporting tribal and Native American community leaders in the COVID-19 effort. And so if you have any questions offline, we host a weekly call with tribal and Native American leaders each Thursday. Tyler Fish is a great contact for that if you are not involved and want to get involved in those conversations. And I just wanted to again, share some perspective on our overall efforts on helping support Indian country and our tribal leaders across the nation. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present that and look forward to hearing your input moving forward. Thank you.
He will be joining other listening sessions, but he had a commitment that he could not break for this listening session today. As you know, on November 26, 2019, President Trump signed Executive Order 13898, and the graphic there illustrates his signature on the executive order that formed the task force on missing and murdered American Indians and Alaska Natives, also known as Operation Lady Justice. The purpose, as you can see on the screen, is to make the criminal justice system work better. And again, you've heard from the DPC, Intergovernmental Affairs, and Ms. Conway, the commitment from the administration to ensure that this task force remains on task, delivering to the requirements in the executive order. The task force co-chair designees, the Attorney General and the Secretary of the Interior, are the co-chairs for the task force, and I am Secretary Bernhardt's designee, and Catherine Katie Sullivan with the Department of Justice is Attorney General Barr's designee. Katie?
I got followed up in that week. That
Oh, you're off mute.
If I could follow up with you.
Katie?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Oh, great. Okay. I am the Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General of Justice Programs. It's a great honor to serve as co-chair with Sweeney, Assistant Secretary Sweeney, on the President's Task Force. I have to say that General Barr, one of his priority areas is absolutely ensuring that there is public safety in Indian country for both Alaskan Natives and our Native American partners. He takes this trust responsibility, this government-to-government trust responsibility very seriously, and this is without a question something that he, along with President Trump, highlights as a crucial area of concern, and that is the missing and murdered Indigenous people in Indian country. So we've been working very hard during the shutdown on getting some of our tasks completed, which Tara is going to talk about more in the PowerPoint. But Attorney General Barr does send his regards, and we join this
the Department of Interior with equal enthusiasm and commitment as described by the White House. And thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to listening. Thank you.
Hear from Terry Wade. At this time, we will hear from Terry Wade. Okay, Mr. Wade is the Executive Assistant Director for Criminal Cyber Response and Services Branch of the Federal Bureau of Investigation with the Department of Justice. And I believe we're having some technical difficulties, but we will continue on. Laura Rogers. Laura Rogers?
Laura Rogers is not on the line right now.
She must have gotten disconnected. She was on earlier. My apologies for those who are listening. Laura Rogers is the Acting Director, Office on Violence Against Women with the Department of Justice. We also have Charlie Addington. I can see that he's a participant. So many of you in Indian country know Charlie Addington. He's the Deputy Bureau Director for the Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Justice Services here at DOI. And do we have audio access for Trent Shores?
I do have audio access for Trent Shores. Charlie Addington was not on the line.
He
Trent
was.
Shores needs to be. I see Trent
So
Shores
Trent
is on
Shores?
the line.
Halito, this is Trent Shores, the United States Attorney in the Northern District of Oklahoma. I'm also honored to listen today as a citizen of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and also as the chair of Attorney General Barr's Native American Issues Subcommittee. I look forward to hearing what it is that you have to say today, and certainly can assure you that this listening session is only a step toward action, and we know that action is what is needed on this issue. Yokoke, and I look forward to your comments.
Thank you, Trent. And of course, Commissioner Hovland, if you have any final words.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can in regards to the programs and services at the Department of Health and Human Services that will assist in prevention and education and recovery and healing for our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. These next few slides you will see they illustrate the accomplishments of the task force. You can see that we've held 5 previous listening sessions. This is the 6th, and we will continue to host more in the coming weeks. As part of the work that the task force has done, certainly many of you know Marcia Good for her work at the Department of Justice, bringing her on as the executive director and making live the operationladyjustice.usdoj.gov website. And that website is designed to inform all of you on the activities that the task force will be engaged with, any sort of frequently asked questions that we receive, fact sheets. It is designed to be an information portal to provide updates and transcripts from these types of listening sessions so that for those who cannot attend, either through WebEx or through a teleconference or maybe in the future in person, the information is available online for those to review, and it is accessible so that for those who choose to engage through written comments will have the benefit of what others across the country are sharing with respect to this issue. And we have the formed work groups. Even though we have been maximizing our telework flexibilities within the federal government, the work still continues. And so these bullets here on this slide illustrate the continued work that the task force and the relevant work groups are engaged with. Again, this slide talks about the specific projects, and there's one that I would like to highlight on the page, and it's the first bullet of the Restarting the Volunteers in Police Service program to help utilize community volunteers in missing persons cases. And that's extremely important. As we all know, it takes a community, and it's important for those who have information. They have access to the infrastructure necessary to effectuate any sort of change or development in a missing persons case. You'll see on this slide, it highlights the different organizations with which the task force has engaged since February. Looking at the President's Commission on Law Enforcement, the Alice Spotted Bear and Walter Soboleff Commission on Native Children, and other equities on the slide. This slide highlights the interaction that the task force and its members have had across our federal family. Now you'll see there are two dates on here that are very important. By November 26th of this year, 2020, we are required to submit a report to the President, and in that report, it is to highlight the activities and the accomplishments, but also any sort of recommendations that we may have at this juncture. And then again, in November 26, 2021, we are required to submit a final report to the President. I know there have been times where folks have asked about the participation of tribal leadership on the task force. The way the executive order spells out this task force, we are an all-federal task force with specific tasks to accomplish to present to the President, which is why we set out to have a very robust schedule with respect to listening sessions and consultations throughout Indian country. And so while we may have hit the pause button as we all responded to the COVID pandemic and engaged in mitigation efforts, we are now resuming these listening sessions and engagement across Indian country, which is so important because these listening sessions will inform the decisions and recommendations that we put forward to the President. And so, operator, I would like to open up the lines for the listening session. On screen here, you will find questions that have been raised by the task force in our discussions. They're meant to be guiding questions, but at this time we would like to hear from tribal leaders for the first 30 minutes. for those who are interested in participating, and then we will open it up beyond that for the remainder of the time. And each speaker will have 3 minutes to present. We will also, I just want, if there are specific questions for task force members or a specific department or agency inside of DOJ or DOI or HHS as it relates to Operation Lady Justice, please let us know so that we can have the appropriate task force member provide an answer. Thank you. Operator, please open up.
You may go ahead and speak. If you would like to ask any questions or make comments, just raise your hand. We have nobody raising their hand at this moment. Okay, Lynn, you may go ahead.
Chairwoman Malerba.
Yes, Lynn, if you're there, you may go ahead and speak.
Operator, are the lines unmuted?
The lines are actually all unmuted at this moment, and I'm not able to get anyone to speak.
So for those who are joining the WebEx and have not provided a phone number to call in, you may want to connect to the WebEx through the app. Operator, can you provide instructions on what they need to do?
Yes, if they would, they could,
Hello?
I don't know what would be the, yes. Hello?
Hello.
Who's speaking?
My name is Renee Millar-Chucklin. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are we allowed to speak now, or?
Yes.
I have a quick question. Has every effort been afforded to bridge the digital divide for Indian country right now? Because a lot of people are being impacted. It's really hard to make these sessions in order to speak on a very critical issue I know a lot of people would like to speak on. Hello?
So, thank you for your question. Regarding the digital divide, it is a priority for the administration to address those types of issues. Currently, this is the technology that we have to conduct these sessions, to be able to have the ability to call in, but also to have the WebEx presentations.
Okay. I would like to speak from the organization that I come from in Denver, Colorado, which deals with the unique issues of both urban and rural Native connections, and how that impacts for MMIW is also very unique and follows oftentimes with extractive industries. So I'd like to be able to speak on that from Spirit of the Sun at Four Winds American Indian Council in Denver.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Awesome. Should I go ahead and start now?
Yep, your time is ticking.
I'm Renee Malar-Chacon, a writer, director, and a Second Sunset Chicana activist, and most importantly, a mother of 2 sons. I'm an Indigenous woman of the Nemashika descent, fighting for future generations and committed to relating climate justice to social justice. My family is from the Denver community, and I now work as youth program coordinator at Spirit of the Sun in Denver. Addressing where communities have been targeted and isolated with pollution and corruption is critical in addressing this crisis and the climate crisis. Issues of environmental racism and exploitation of resources leaves land and MMIW not the latest, but the first example of human victims to exploitative effects of overconsumption and environmental resources spilling over to social injustice of marginalized and impoverished communities, not able to legally protect themselves from it. The root of this is predatory capitalism, where people deeply impoverished will be the first to be hit with toxicity, both material and socioeconomic resources, and social exploitation and trafficking. We need to recognize that the contributing factors to MMIW, girls and people, men and people, is a social injustice worldwide. It's predatory capitalism, is modern colonialism. It preys on those easiest to be harmed without any protection to those communities. When local, rural, and sovereign communities have to provide for themselves socioeconomically, people are put in a position to have to seek outside of their community's protection and awareness. Without resources that hold predators accountable legally or in economics, federal or state policies, exploitation, the harm to these local members always happens when it's predatory, and it has been going unnoticed and invisible. At the root of this is a radical exploitation of poverty and lack of representation, including the lack of access to the most basic human rights, legal protections, and access to affluence to build their own socioeconomic stability and renewable infrastructure. We want support from all police departments and the FBI, from the court to the prosecutors to coroners. We need allies. We need non-natives. We need whoever wants to join and speak with us against this injustice. It has been a long legacy of suffering that has led to dramatic inequity, inequality, and no enforcement or accountability to protect children, women, men, and the earth being destroyed from outdated, wasteful industries not committed to renewable, sustainable, and inclusive progress for future generations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Operator, are you able to connect Chief Malerba? Operator?
I'm going
Erica?
to manually, yes, I'm here. I'm going to manually enter her to the call. I'm doing that right now. We called.
Hi.
Lynn.
Hi, it's Chief Malerba. Thank you for calling me. I don't know what was going on with my computer, so I appreciate you doing that. So I'm the chief of the Mohegan Tribe, and I'm also the secretary for the United South and Eastern Tribe Sovereignty Protection Fund. And I'm very appreciative of the work that's happening. And I have a couple of questions, and I'll ask them all at once since I know I only have 3 minutes to speak. One is, I understand that there are no tribal leaders on the task force, and I'm wondering how you will incorporate tribal leaders' feedback, and how will Indian country be briefed on what your reports will be, and will we have an opportunity to provide feedback once you have recommendations that are going to be going to the president? Because I think it's going to be really important to have that feedback loop. And I'm hoping that as we think about some of the programs that we will be able to share, that we think about how we can increase the special domestic violence criminal jurisdiction to all tribes, and that any programming or any new programming and funding that occurs will be through self-governance and will not be through grants, because as you all know, grants do not uphold the trust and treaty obligations. So I'll leave it at that, but I don't think that just the final recommendations, should be the end of it. There should be a continuing dialogue with tribal leaders and tribal nations so that we all get to the point of really serving our tribal communities. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your input and feedback. I want to give Katie Sullivan an opportunity to answer some of the questions that you have raised at this time.
Katie is on.
Hi, am I cutting out again?
You're good.
Oh, I am good. Okay, and can you repeat the question to me, please?
Well, there were several. Most notably, Chief Malerba had raised the issue of no tribal leaders on the task force, and whether or not there would be ample time for feedback loop mechanism based on our draft report to the president.
Oh, yeah.
If tribes would have an opportunity to engage with the draft report, provide feedback, to have that further incorporated into the recommendations and what we report back to the president.
Yeah, so a couple things. Thank you, Tara. And I just wanted to be clear with what we, so the logistical issues that surround the task force have obviously adjusted a little bit because of COVID-19 and our inability to travel into Indian country. I really appreciate the question about whether or not we are able to make sure that Indian country and particularly very rural communities have access to the kind of technology that you need to participate in these sessions. So I want to start by saying, and I think the task force will agree, that having these sessions is just a way for us to get things started again, that we do plan on traveling to Indian country when you all feel safe for us to come, and we can travel as well. So having the government-to-government conversations and sessions is vital to the success of the task force's work. Now, we have created and are starting to create, in the middle of creating some ideas and some drafts, but a huge part of this is getting input from all of you to, finalize anything that we do. The other thing is, and I will say I've heard the Attorney General say it many times, we oftentimes, the federal government comes up with rules that apply to all people. It happens in grant making in particular, where you say this one grant, this one program is going to serve everyone's needs. And of course we know that that isn't true. So one of the things that the Attorney General, and I know, Tara Sweeney and I have discussed as well, we want to do is make sure that whatever, say, procedures or protocols that are put in place, that's one of the pillars of what needs to come out of this executive order of the president, is that it can be implemented in Indian country anywhere, that we want it to be flexible to meet your needs. And we understand that not all needs are the same and that every single tribe does have different needs. So we will continue getting input without any question. We do have a report due to the president November 2020. We will receive as much input as we possibly can, but I think it's fair to say that nothing is set in stone until we have done all the consultation and listening sessions that we have promised to do. COVID put a wrench in the timing a little bit, but it's a postponement. It's not canceled. The only other thing I want to say about the broadband is I know that it is a priority of the White House to make sure that there is access to broadband, particularly in rural communities, and there really are some very creative, innovative ideas on how we are going to be able to expand access as an administration. And I know that that will have a very positive effect on Indian country. It's not a focus of this task force, but it does go back to that original question that was asked. So thank you.
Katie, I appreciate the touchback to broadband. One thing that I would like to address is there are initiatives taking place, I know, within the Department of the Interior to take a look at the broadband infrastructure capacity in Indian country, especially as it relates to the schools and online learning. We are looking at an innovative project and looking at the 25 longest bus routes in Indian country to equip them with the necessary infrastructure to provide connectivity for students who can complete their homework along these extremely long bus routes. In addition to that, working with the Bureau of Indian Affairs to take a look at what infrastructure is needed to increase connectivity capacity in Indian country. With that, operator, are there any other tribal leaders who have questions?
No, there's no one else with their hand raised at this moment.
Okay. I want to go back to Chief Malerba. You also had asked a question pertaining to Oliphant, and I see that in the comments there is also a question that was raised about the U.S. Supreme Court decision Oliphant versus the Suquamish tribe, and I just want to provide an answer there that Marcia has shared, in that that issue is currently beyond the scope of the task force work at this time. Are there any other tribal leaders who wish to speak? Operator, we're happy to open the lines up to community advocates and other stakeholders. Can you remind folks how to let you know that they would like to get in the queue?
Yes, to indicate that you would like to speak, if you go to the top portion of your browser or the application, you'll see either a hand icon or a figure with the hand raised, and you push that drop down and raise your hand, and you will be entered into the queue to be called on to ask questions.
Okay, next speaker.
We have Iona.
Operator, next speaker.
Do we have Iona? Okay, and after Iona, we have Kitty.
Good afternoon. This is Kitty with USET Sovereignty Protection Fund. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Good afternoon, and thank you for holding today's call. I just wanted to follow up to the conversation that we just had a moment ago about the report that's going to the President in November of this year. First, a comment and a request for inclusion, but also a suggestion as well. So I think we all are too well familiar with the challenges and the jurisdictional complications that have resulted in the consequences that lead to this MMIW issue and a multitude of other reasons as well. And tied to that is the issue of a lack of resources because of some of those decisions that have been made over the years to adequately deal with this issue across Indian country, including one of the things that's fresh right now in front of us, which is the reauthorization of the VAWA Act. So I think it's going to be extremely important for the report that goes to the President to deal with the systemic issues that are driving these consequential issues on this matter, and to really do a deep dive and do a deep examination and close look about all of those things that led to these jurisdictional complications. But in terms of suggestion, one of the seats that I occupy in my role is I am a representative for the Eastern Region on the Tribal Interior Budget Committee. And I know within the interior space there is OJS, in addition to the work of Department of Justice. And one of the things that is very important within this entire space is to know what we are dealing with from a very fact-based perspective. And one of the challenges that we have within this area, as well as other areas across Indian country, is just a failure of adequate information to drive some of the decisions that we are making. So I know that there is sometimes overlap and sometimes there is not between those two respective areas, but oftentimes we're having conversations that are separate from each other within those two spaces. And one of the things that we would like to see as this effort moves forward is for the administration to make a commitment to identify what the real data is here, including the shortfalls as it relates to resources. So because of some of those jurisdictional determinations and decisions that were made in previous years that led to the current situation, we rely on federal resources to do a lot of the enforcement, and that enforcement in many times is inadequate. As well as Chief Malherbe was talking about, is regaining the inherent authorities that are ours through full criminal jurisdiction authority. So we would ask that as part of the solution in the report that goes forward is for a commitment by the administration and working with DOJ as well as OJS to do a deep dive into the data as well as the resources that are necessary based upon the way that it is structured right now to improve the enforcement part of it. And short and long-term objective is to achieve full jurisdictional restoration for all tribal nations. Thank you.
Thank you. Operator, next speaker.
I still just have Iona. Is Iona on the line?
Hello?
That's all I have right now.
Is there anyone else from the Eastern region who'd like to provide comments?
Hello?
Operator, I hear someone saying hello faintly.
Hello?
Yes, I can barely hear them. Who is this?
This is Iona.
There you are.
I have my
We hear you now.
volume up loud. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My question was concerning how other tribes are actually being reached out. Like, what is the mechanism that you are doing to reach all of the different tribes? And since we're talking about the Eastern region, I was specifically asking too about the Shinnecock Indian Nation, the Algonquin tribe in Southampton, New York. I put a comment also of my question in to see if maybe Marcia could, or someone could answer it that way.
Thank you for your question. I heard a little bit of it. It seems like there's some background noise, but I can answer a portion of it, and I welcome the opportunity for other task members to provide their input. But what we're doing is providing listening sessions to various regions across the United States. And I know that you were talking about Shinnecock, which they are included in the Eastern region. And so, pardon? In addition to that, there will be a listening session provided to the Eastern Oklahoma and Southern Plains, as well as the Midwest and Rocky Mountain Western region, in addition to the Pacific, the Northwest and Alaska regions as well. So those round out the 4 scheduled listening sessions. We are scheduled to have a consultation on July 7 in Billings, and an additional one again in Alaska. Prior to these listening sessions, we held 6 previous ones, and preceding the signing of the executive order, there were a series of Reclaiming Our Native Community roundtables held across the country, in addition to the work that has been done by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so Trent or Laura or Katie, if you have additional information, and Charlie as well, please feel free to share that. Okay. Operator, are there any other questions?
No, there's no one else with their hand raised at this moment.
Operator?
Yes, there's still no one with their hand raised. Oh, I just got one. It's Momo Harjo. I did not say that name right. I apologize. But your microphone is on and you can speak. Hello? that's the only person that has their hand raised at this moment.
Are there any other participants who would like to speak at this time or provide input into this listening session?
Nobody dodged questions.
Pardon?
It's Lady Jessup.
Operator, if people have only dialed in telephonically because there were some tech issues on the web page, they won't be able to raise their hand. Could you provide instructions for those only who have called in by telephone only, how to get in the queue for you?
They would have to email, I guess. I'm not sure how else. We don't have any way to indicate otherwise.
Thank you.
We have an Elizabeth Carr. Elizabeth?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, great, thank you. This is Elizabeth Carr, and I am the Senior Native Affairs Advisor for the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center, and I just wanted to reiterate a question that was asked in the comment section regarding the status of the Indian Country Crimes Unit at the FBI, and what their engagement level is with the task force and what their work looks like.
Thank you. Do we have either Terry Wade or Mr. Cullen on the phone to provide an answer?
So this is Marcia Good, who's the Executive Director of the task force. I can speak to that a little bit if you'd like me to, and I know that Tim Dunham, who is also with the FBI, is also on the phone, and he could also answer that question. Tim, are you available to answer?
Can I be heard? I'm here, yes.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Tim.
Hi, so great. I'm sorry I missed the introductions earlier. My name is Tim Dunham. I'm the Deputy Assistant Director here at the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division. And in my branch is where our Indian Country Investigative Programs unit is housed. And we work the full range of investigative programs on Indian countries. I'm sure most of the participants here know. We're going to be fully engaged with the task force and its work going forward. We'll be represented on all of these calls and seek to answer whatever needs of the community that we can during these times of conversation.
And this is Marcia. As the Executive Director, I just wanted to chime in a little bit that the Indian Country and Violent Crime Unit has been involved in basically every project that we're working on through our working groups in the task force, including development of the protocols and working on the data issues. And so they, not only the unit, but others from the FBI are also very involved.
Great, thank you. And I have one more question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I know that a lot of the there are a lot of barriers that are created from federal policy that's legislatively mandated and dictated by Supreme Court cases. But I'm wondering if there's any decision or administrative decision that can be made to ensure that the FBI and the BIA don't overutilize discretion and when they're deciding whether or not to investigate a crime against a Native woman. We believe that if a Native woman is a citizen of a federally recognized tribe and lives on tribal lands, that if and when she goes missing, the FBI should be required to investigate it. And so we're wondering if there's any waiver of discretion on that aspect of investigation from an administrative decision standpoint.
DOJ?
Well, I mean, this is Katie, and I think I can in part answer the question, but then I'm going to defer to Trent. You know, it's important to, and I think when we're looking at protocols and procedures, right, we have to be very careful to look at the two types of cases that we're talking about, missing cases, and then there's cases in which people are murdered, and there's also cases in which there's domestic violence, sexual assault, et cetera, et cetera. We want to make sure that all of those responses are, you know, completely robust and work for each individual community, each individual tribal community. Not every missing case necessarily is a criminal case, and that's where it can get tricky, but where it is, then obviously we want to be jumping in and doing the best that we can. But I'm going to defer to Trent, who is in the field as a prosecutor.
Well, good afternoon. I really think that this is a great question because it's one that I hear a lot, and I know that United States attorneys and tribal liaisons in U.S. attorneys' offices hear a lot. And Katie's really hit the nail on the head when it comes to first distinguishing between murdered victims and persons who are missing. The FBI, for example, is going to come in and investigate when a crime has occurred. And one of the questions I think that we really have to look at here is at what point is it appropriate or should the Federal Bureau of Investigation become involved in a missing persons case? Traditionally, and typically, that's a local law enforcement function. So in Indian country, it's a tribal law enforcement function. If that community is served by the Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Justice Services, then they would be the officers who would receive the initial report and then begin the investigation, or rather at that point, a search for the missing person. I will say, as part of the Department of Justice's efforts that really go hand in glove with the White House task force here, the FBI did expand its use of what we call CARD teams, C-A-R-D. That's the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Teams. In fact, we just used one here recently in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I am. When there was a report of a missing child, the FBI is able to come in and use these teams to help assist in the search. We've seen it in the context of a missing Indigenous person, missing Native American in Montana. And so I think that as we begin to look at the development of investigative protocols, one of those factors has to be at what point does the FBI and BIA engage in the search for a missing person? I think it's a really important question, and I think that's something that not just the FBI, but this task force has to look at together to figure out what is the proper protocol to make sure that that happens early and to make sure that the response is comprehensive and that it's coordinated. And that means that the search is, the progress of the search is communicated with the victims, family through victim coordinators, that the tribal community is made aware of the efforts that are ongoing, and that we continue to ensure that this isn't something that, for whatever reason, falls off the radar. This is important. It is a crisis, and I think that that kind of coordinated response with search fees early on will be helpful. So thank you for that question. I think it's a really important one.
Thank you. Operator, next speaker.
We have Momo should be receiving and connecting to the line.
Okay. Next speaker.
We were unable to connect with Mo. That is the last person that we had with their hand raised.
Okay. At this time, I would also like to call on Charlie Addington to provide an update on the cold case working group.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Charlie Addington, the director for the BIA Office of Justice Services. And, one of the things that we're looking at moving forward with is the cold case investigative teams that will enhance our response to the missing persons and the issue of investigating cold cases throughout the Indian country. And we have established 7 proposed locations for those investigative teams, and we have recruited for new special agents to actually fill positions in those locations, and we've got 2 that's in the process of reporting here at the end of this month, and then 1 more that's coming on in July, and then the others that's going through our human resources process. These task forces will also be comprehensive and actually a multidisciplinary approach to where we'll be working hand in hand with our other federal partners at the Department of Justice, the FBI, our local tribal law enforcement agencies in these areas, as well as any state or local law enforcement agencies where they may have information or something may lead us into leads or something, off of Indian country as well. And also working with our local groups, locally, our grassroots folks with missing and murdered groups, actually working with the schools, with the healthcare officials, all the different programs that we would need to be successful. And we've got those in the works right now. We're very excited with the work that's going on. We've begun collecting cold cases throughout Indian country, and we are working very closely with the Department of Justice, and I can't say enough about the excitement that we've got with our partnership with everybody as we move forward on these. And we look forward in the next few months of standing a couple of these up and getting them started. And hopefully we will be getting some cases going fairly soon.
Okay, thank you, Director Addington. Are there any other questions in the queue? So we have, I know that I guess Momo Harjo was trying to connect, and the question Momo posed was related to the challenges in how the agencies coordinate in missing persons cases. The matter of a missing person can present a multi-jurisdictional problem. It may not be clear where or how a person went missing, so multiple law enforcement agencies may be involved. However, cooperation may not be optimal, particularly when there's a scarcity of resources, differences in laws and procedures. And the Ashland Mike case highlighted some of those problems. How can OLJ and the agencies work with state and local jurisdictions to incentivize or guide them to work with tribal or BIA law enforcement agencies on these cases or reports? And Momo, that's a great question. As a task force, when you look at the executive order, there are specific deliverables that require this improved interagency cooperation and also working with our local partners to address these types of issues. And I see that Olivia Gray has asked a question as well on how we, the federal government, can work with local counties to investigate these types of cases. I want to call on HHS, Michelle, who is will be filling in for Jeannie to provide a response on the work that HHS is doing with respect to the communications toolkit and the outreach throughout Indian country. And then would like to also reach out to Marcia Good and Laura Rogers and Katie Sullivan.
Great, thank you, Assistant Secretary Stoney. This is Michelle Sauve, and I work with Commissioner Hovland, and I am Executive Director for the Intra-Departmental Council for Native American Affairs at HHS. And we have stood up a subcommittee specifically to look at how HHS can support Operation Lady Justice Task Force. And as the Assistant Secretary said, in particular, identify areas where HHS already works regionally, locally, across our different divisions, for example, with the CDC and building up the public health response. We work with a lot of the same first responders that Interior and Justice are working with, but we work with them in a different way. For example, we're working with them to build up their ability to respond to local health emergencies or crises. So as part of this response, we're identifying ways that we can create more awareness about the resources that exist and how we can coordinate and collaborate better. And so we are building out a strategic plan to identify all of those different touch points where we can provide additional training and education and making sure that we are coordinating and collaborating, sharing the resources that HHS has, for example, on public health approaches to violence prevention and ending violence in our communities, as well as learning more about the resources that Interior and Justice have, so that way we can all be working on the same page and communicating and collaborating with communities that are on the front lines. So thank you for the opportunity to mention those efforts.
Anything from DOJ, Laura Rogers?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I don't know what happened earlier. At the Office on Violence Against Women, we are busy pursuing the 904 task force to bring in tribal members to consult with us, and we are going to be pursuing additional information and joining with the National Institute of Justice on research with respect to missing or murdered Indigenous people to investigate additional research with respect to the issue and try to identify additional information to move that research farther down the line. And so we are excited to reconstitute that task force and begin work later on this summer.
Thank you. Katie.
Well, I'm just going to say that, you know, part of working collaboratively is something, again, that, you know, the Attorney General saw as a need in Indian country. Obviously, President Trump did as well, because it's such a big focus of his executive order and of the work of this task force. I know Laura Rogers, and I'm sure Jeannie Hovland, everyone will agree that having victim services at the table is very important, as is having good communication between all of the different law enforcement agencies that may be implicated along the way in a case. So to that end, the Attorney General has an initiative in Indian country. We're employing program coordinators to work to look at how each Indian country, that they will work through the U.S. Attorney's Office in 11 different jurisdictions, and in essence look at how are the missing cases being handled, how are the murdered cases being handled, in order to further inform us, so we can inform AUSAs, we can inform the FBI. If we can provide help locally or to tribal law enforcement, of course, we'd love to do that as well. So I think that, you know, ensuring that everybody is together and at the table and collaborating and informed, that is the core and essence of this task force and the mission of President Trump and AG Barr and Secretary Bernhardt, Secretary Azar. I mean, this is what we really are looking to do in working with all of you.
Thank you, Katie. Operator, are there any additional speakers? We have about 8 minutes left.
There are not.
Okay. At this time, I would like to provide the task force members to provide any sort of closing comments. Starting with Michelle, HHS.
Yes, thank you so much. And on behalf of Commissioner Hovland, we just want to reiterate our support and our dedication to the goals of the Operation Lady Justice Task Force. We know that how important it is to listen to our communities, what is happening on the ground. Advocates have been raising this issue, and we are up to the challenge to identify ways that the federal government can help support and address this very important issue. So thank you for your continued engagement, and we are looking forward to more listening sessions where we can hear more about how we can support you. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to the FBI, Timothy Dedham.
I think my soul is boiling.
Terry Wade.
Yes, thank you very much. On behalf of the FBI, I just want to say that we were very pleased to be able to participate in the call today. I look forward to the ongoing engagement and additional communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Trent Shores?
Soul is on fire.
Yes, this is Trent. I want to thank all the callers today. In particular, one of the comments that stood out to me was the comment about the need to do a deep dive into some of the statistics and to really get a better idea of what it is that we are confronting, the scope of the problem, understanding where crimes are occurring in Indian country, but also in urban settings, and who the perpetrators are. I think that that's certainly something that the task force can take to heart and look at. The other comment that jumped out at me was the one that I talked about a little bit, which was that coordination of when the FBI and BIA or tribal police engage on a missing persons case. And I've seen there's been some discussion in the comment section as well referencing Oklahoma. So I'm hopeful that callers will engage with their United States Attorney's offices and their tribal liaisons if they have an ongoing issue. But also, I think that those are areas that this task force can really focus on, and I'm thankful to the callers for bringing those issue areas up. Those are important topics.
Thank you, Trent. And moving on to Charlie Addington.
Well, thank you. I want to thank everybody that was able to participate in the call today, and just say, you know, to make it an effort and make a difference out in Indian country, it takes all of us being on the moving in the same direction. I can't say enough about the support that at BIA Office of Justice Services that we're getting from the White House, from the cabinet level members, and also from all of our leadership and our partnership with all these other agencies, DOJ, HHS. This is what it's going to take to move forward and make a difference. And we've already made some changes, you know, locally. I know Trent brought it up a minute ago just about, you know, the response to missing person cases. We've made changes in the way we respond and the way we coordinate already. We've had some very, very positive situations where we've been on the ground immediately after we receive a missing person complaint, and we coordinate with those other agencies, and it has worked the way it's supposed to work. So as we move forward, we just, I think all the support from everybody from the top to the bottom and getting the community involved is going to be just a big asset for us in addressing this crisis.
Thank you, Charlie. Laura Rogers.
Kara, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to be on this call, and I want to thank everybody who's taken their time. I know that resources are stretched thin right now with the pandemic, and so thank you so much for your time and your interest. This is a topic that I think is near and dear to everybody's heart, and those of us at OVW are very interested in this topic because it deals with women and children and men. We are very dedicated to this topic. I would mirror Trent's comments with respect to drilling down on the research and the statistics, because I think by identifying the accurate research, we'll be able to really narrow down where we need to dedicate our resources and work towards a solution. And that's so important to really know which direction we need to go in order to curb the insult to women and children and to men. So I'm very interested in doing that and very interested in working on those issues. So thank you so much for your participation, and thank you for letting us assist you in this issue.
Thank you. And Katie Sullivan.
Thank you all so much. This is my favorite part of my job, honestly, is connecting with people in Indian country, figuring out how we can do things better. We clearly have a problem, and I love to find solutions, just like Attorney General Barr. He is a man who likes big problems and then big solutions. And so please expect from us that we are going to make good on our promises. And I also just want to really thank Tara Sweeney and the White House. Tara, you're a wonderful partner in this, and I'm just so glad that we have come together. So thank you, everyone, and Godspeed.
Thank you. And then I know that just shortly, there were participants from the White House that were still on. I just want to provide anyone from the White House an opportunity. Okay. I want to thank all of you for calling in. I also appreciate the patience afforded to us as we try this new technology. You know, this pandemic has tested so many of our social norms, and this is one of them. So we're trying to find ways to connect with Indian country that are safe and consistent with the healthy practices that are put out by the CDC. We do have complex problems throughout Indian country with respect to public safety, and they do vary by community, which is why, as Katie had said earlier, collaboration is so critical with Indian country. Being an all-federal task force and hearing from Indian country the need for constant input by tribal leadership is a message that is not lost on us, and I appreciate Chief Malerba for your continuation of beating that drum, your persistence for wanting to share your thoughts today. I, on behalf of the Department of the Interior and Secretary Bernhardt, I look forward to the continued partnership with the Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as IHS and Tyler Fish at the White House Council for Native American Affairs. In addition to, and most importantly, the greater tribal community. We have a large and a very important task ahead of us, and as you know, we're coming together to listen and to learn, to provide recommendations and solutions to address things like data deficiencies, to jumpstart the work on unresolved cases in Indian country and Alaska Native communities, but also to improve, clarify, and communicate the multi-jurisdictional protocols and procedures to across the federal family, but also to those that have to engage with the federal family in times where we find family members missing or murdered, and to work across the federal government as directed by President Trump to find agreement on the federal best practices to address this epidemic. If you would like to submit, again, additional comments, written detailed comments, I encourage you to submit those comments to Operation Lady Justice at usdoj.gov, and you can see that email address on your screen through the WebEx. And I encourage you to visit the website for updates on the progress that the task force is making. And so with that, I wish you all wellness, and thank you so much for your time. And that concludes our listening session.